Well, hello, fellow zombies again. I should have been. I'll have to get the late night versions of Jen PSAKI and get her on my show here. Some of the audio clips of him because she's hitting points left and right that are scaring the hell out of people left and right, and they're scaring the hell out of me. Right now it's 6:27 at night, West Coast time. It is Thursday, the 18th of September, 2025. The Weaver Agency of Roseman, California. Diary of a Griever named John Weaver, which is me, is on. And I'm listening to a lot of things happening on MSNBC. Some people may not take it with a grain of salt, and other people may be warned about what some of these uh, broadcasters are saying. And corresponding and correlating with everything else I'm seeing with the independents out there. Our First Amendment rights are going away. Slowly but surely, through trickulation, through buying into corporate medias, through Trump controlling everything now. The Constitution in the United States is getting null and voided, little by little. Due process, rights for habeas corpus, representation. We're getting falsely accused before we have a chance to defend ourselves. The right to bear arms is the only thing stable. But the freedom of speech, people keep focusing on Kimmel, but it's more than that. When I keep saying about the mega corporations trying to merge with each other left and right. Oh, now I'm hip on that one. Yeah, well, I haven't been talking about it as much. I haven't been talking about it as much. I'm listening to everybody else going ape on this one, doing their own research and just watching all the independents doing the research as they have. And yeah, I'm late. I'm late to the game. I'm late to the punch, but I'm on the sides watching everything instead of talking on and reacting like everybody else. But the thing is, I know the reactions are supposed to be angry enough, but insistent enough, and it's scary and terrifying while we're watching it. I'm going to be catching a tail end of Jen Psaki's on MSNBC conversations with people because the first half hour was more enlightening than anything else. And if I can get on the late night and get it audio taped, I need to get it audio taped. I need to get clarification, even if it's going to be in about an hour on this tape, and it's going to drive people crazy. But I have to chew up on memory and chew up on space. Chunks as it is, but I'll have to do that too. I've known that we've been having problems with this guy for a long while. When he got in the office, he was trying to control a few things, but he couldn't get Congress to work. He couldn't get his people established. And the first 2 years of the Trump presidency was just about the GOP trying to, or the forming of the Borg. Maybe I shouldn't call them Trumplicans, but just call them Borg. Hold on.
One day after Trump's FCC puppet, an accurate description, Brendan Carr responded to a question from media reporter Brian Stelter about ABC's ouster of Jimmy Kimmel with this gif. Chairman Carr reiterated today that the consequences will continue to flow.
We're going back to that era when local TV stations judging the public interest get to decide what the American people think. I don't think this is the last shoe to drop. This is a massive shift that's taking place in the media ecosystem. I think the consequences are going to continue to flow.
Now, when he says a massive shift in the media ecosystem, what he really means is the FCC will dangle federal regulations and approvals over broadcasters in order to pressure them to cancel any content that Trump world doesn't like. If that sounds corrupt to you, if it sounds like the independent regulator of the, and I put that in quotes, please, of the FCC is suggesting he will exert consequences on television networks that are critical of Trump, that's because he has every intention of doing exactly that. Trump may be president, but he is not all-powerful, and neither is Brendan Carr. So the question is, what now? Well, in the last 24 hours, there has been increasing chatter online about boycotting ABC's parent company, Disney. According to Google Trends, the search term "cancel Disney Plus," the streaming service owned by Disney, has skyrocketed since the Kimmel announcement. It is still early, and I don't know how many people will follow through on that, or if that is what will prompt ABC to reconsider. But it leads to the question of what people like you can do at a moment like this. I have the perfect person to talk with. Joining me now is Stacey Abrams. She is the former Democratic minority leader in the Georgia House of Representatives. She is also the founder of Fair Fight Action, as well as the host of the podcast Assembly Required. She is very busy. So let me start with this. I mean, you are running a nationwide mobilization and education campaign highlighting the 10 steps to autocracy and authoritarianism, with one of the key pieces of the campaign giving people actionable tools to engage and push back against what we are witnessing, which is so applicable in this moment. Because I think the question I often get is, what should I do? What to do, right? Even elected officials aren't entirely always sure. So first of all, in your mind, what step are we at in that process?
We've actually hit all 10 steps. And Jen, thank you so much not only for having me on, but for hosting this conversation. The 10 Steps campaign, and I encourage everyone to go to 10stepscampaign.org, is about the fact that we've now ticked every single one of the boxes. We've hit every one of the steps in authoritarianism. And let's be clear, authoritarianism, autocracy, it simply refers to a system of government where the people in charge, whether it's one person or a small group of people, exert their power by suppressing individual freedom, by taking away the rights of those who they do not believe are entitled to citizenship, entitled to full participation. And our first responsibility is to understand that that's where we are. You have gone through a litany of what's just happened in the last week, but let's think about the last 8 months. And what we know is that we are in the middle of a hostile government takeover, as the TikTok song told us, but that we still have a way out. And we can't find our way out if we don't acknowledge where we are. And to your point, we have members of Congress who seem to think that we are still flirting with the edges instead of being in the belly of the beast.
We are definitely in the belly of the beast, and you're absolutely right. It's not just the last couple of days. That's certainly been a reminder. It has been building, and it's not always one thing or one moment. It's a building of things. One of the questions, and you sort of touched on this, is like, what should people be doing? I touched on this earlier too. I mean, I mentioned some of the chatter online about boycotting Disney Plus. I guess that's, people are Googling it. But when it comes to how Americans can push back against, let's start with what we're seeing from Trump's FCC. What would you advise people to do? What does work to push back?
Sure. So what we are watching with the FCC, what we are watching happen with Lisa Cook at the Federal Reserve, what we saw happen with the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is installing loyalists. And you can't install loyalists unless you get rid of the people actually willing to do the work. So step 5 is what we are seeing happen. Loyalists who do the bidding of the power, the bidding of the person in charge or the party in charge. And let's be clear, this is not just Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump and a Republican Party that is suborning his behavior. But we've got 10 things. If there are 10 steps to autocracy and authoritarianism, there are 10 steps to freedom and power. And at 10stepscampaign.org, we walk through them. First, your job is to commit to knowing what's going on. And that's hard. We have a native instinct to normalize what we see around us, to dismiss it, or to think that, well, that doesn't bother me, doesn't affect me. Once we commit to knowing where we are, our second job is to share it with others. We have to organize, as Congressman Frost pointed out. You've got to organize people. Make sure they know what you're talking about. And then you mobilize to do something about it. And part of mobilization is that we can deny them access to our resources and to our power. And that's what boycotts are. We can disrupt by going out and taking pictures, filming. When we see ICE roaming the streets, when you have a military occupation of the capital city, record it. Make certain they know we're watching. That's why protests matter so much. We can litigate, be a part of a lawsuit, but we can also elect and engage. We got to make sure we're telling our leaders that we are not waiting for them to act. We are demanding that they act. Because the most important piece of understanding this is that this isn't going to be some grand cinematic moment like the end of the Avengers. and it starts by demanding that they do their jobs, and if they won't do their jobs, that we're going to make it hard for them to take our power away.
Such a powerful message. You've also told me before, pick one thing, call a few friends. It doesn't have to be an enormous thing. It starts with one step. Stacey Abrams, thank you so much for giving us some real steps and a place for resources I think so many people out there need it now. We're going to take a quick break. After that, we're going to talk about what does this Russian puppet show tell us about the moment we're in right now. I promise you it's something. I'll tell you when we come back.
Sorry, dealing with my dog and dealing with what she's been talking about. That was Stacey Abrams. You hear no whining as my dog in the background there. Sorry, guys. I am trying to find out which particular organization that she's at, that she's doing right now, so I can find out how to get information on what she's talking about. And right now, it's just oy vey. Alright, so that's what we're doing anyway. Oy vey. Alright, so let's see. You gotta check one thing, check another, check another, check another, check another. Holy crap. It's a lot of things to do, you know. Is she right? Is she right? Has our First Amendment rights gone away? The independents are going crazy, and the corporate media is just shaking their heads, and at least the broadcasters are still questioning. Trying not to shake the tree greatly, but they are shaking it. There's many observations, there's many, how am I going to say this damn thing? Many examples out there to bring this forth to people at this point. Think of it as Lord of the Rings for those fans out there who watch the movies, or they're old as I am. They've seen the cartoons of J.R. Tolkien's masterpiece. In one instance, they're talking about, if I can put this into a political format, of a government system being so hostile and taking over everything that you got these isolated kingdoms out there threatened. And if you see the movies, it's glamorous, it's grandiose, it's like watching the old 40s, 50s, and 60s cinematic theaters, the cinematic masterpieces out there. About 2 or 3 hours old and intermissions, and you get to see the grandeur of the thing. Slow moving as it is, but still. We're seeing slow-moving masterpiece of the weirdest kind we've ever seen. Lord of the Rings had about 2 to 3 hours, depending on which particular film we're talking about. 1, 2, or 3. And then you had The Hobbit doing the same damn thing. But if I take you back to the movies back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, how about Cecil B. DeMille, 10 Commandments, okay? He had an intermission break right after when Moses contacted, or actually God contacted Moses, and then the rest of it is just Moses trying to get the people out of Egypt, and that was the rest of it. It's like about an hour or less. Just about that. For almost 2 hours, you're seeing Moses from a kid to the trials and tribulations he's going through until he meets God. Or if you want to see a movie, Ben-Hur, or Spartacus. About one and a half, almost 2 hours. Then you have the break. It's usually about 2 or 3 minutes because they have to have a nice long entr'acte. And then after that, it's about an hour and a half or more for the film to finish. Mama. Come here, sweetheart. Come here, sweetheart. But that's what we're seeing is a slow-moving train on this one. Little by little, in about 1,000 cuts, we are getting nailed left and right on this. We are. And the reason why I pointed you to back of me, because usually there was a big monkey with ears on him, and also to the top of my cabinet that I had mouse ears. My protest to Disney. Here she comes again. to the brain, to the bones, and to the end I bore this.
Kill them in the expense. Kill them in the crapper.
It's a little bit the stuff of nightmares, but that was a sketch from the 1999 Russian puppet comedy show called Kukly. The sketch depicts then Russian President Boris Yeltsin crying about the future of Russian democracy after he fathers a screaming demon baby version of his successor, Vladimir Putin. Yes, that is who that is, that screaming baby. The sketch was funny. I mean, it was irreverent, and it was trenchant about Russia's future in the way that only good political satire can be in any country. Now, in the year 2000, just after Putin was officially inaugurated as president, the program ran another Putin sketch. This one imagined Russia in the year 2020, with Putin still in office and ordering raids on the show's parent company. Like I said, trenchant. The show correctly predicted that Putin would continue his hold on power in Russia 20 years later, and then some. But the show underestimated how quickly Putin would go after his comedy critics. Now, not long after that sketch, the Kremlin pressured the network to take the show off the air. That might not come as a surprise today. After all, Russia is a state where freedom of speech is strictly limited, media is censored by the state, and a number of Putin's critics have wound up dead. But at the time, Russia's future as an authoritarian state was not so certain. In an op-ed today, Russian writer and chess legend Garry Kasparov writes about the comedy puppet show as an early casualty of Russia's censorship regime. Here's part of what he said in the piece. Many of the Russian government's targets were never actually arrested or charged with any specific offense. Many more were never targeted at all. A few high-profile people got shaken down and everyone else got the message. A general chill spread over the country's media, but it took a while to entirely freeze over. When a country begins to slide into authoritarianism, its leaders don't just come right out of the gate and start throwing people out of windows or poisoning them with Novichok. They target their critics in more subtle ways. And their targets are not always opposition leaders or truth-telling journalists. Often their targets are comedians, who have the power to pierce a dictator's veil of invulnerability in ways that few others can. That's what comedians can do. You see evidence of it in regimes all over the world. I mean, in 2023, China fined a comedian more than $2 million for making a joke about the military that leaders said harmed society. Comedians in places like Iran and Malaysia and Kazakhstan are frequently targeted for undermining the state. When I joined the Obama State Department in 2013, one of the first international issues I remember the team dealing with was Egypt's attempts to censor a late-night comedian named Bassam Youssef, who was being targeted with an investigation for comments he made on his program. That's why. Now our country is grappling with its own battle over freedom of expression. ABC has pulled late-night host Jimmy Kimmel off the air indefinitely after criticism from Trump's FCC chair over comments Kimmel made over the death of Charlie Kirk. It follows a similar decision by Paramount to end The Late Show with Stephen Colbert shortly after the Trump administration approved a merger for the show's parent company. Are those decisions early warning signs about the future of free expression in this country? Sure feels like it. And if so, what can we learn from other countries where freedom of expression has already been eroded? Garry Kasparov joins me here to discuss next.
Yeah, there's a reason why I need to hear and go over this information because it's just lunacy, isn't it? It's just lunacy. And about what's going on right now, I know I am throwing out these kind of terminologies because I know a lot of other people are going to go crazy. Yeah, I need my hands, Mama. Okay? I know. It's Madam Stress Case. I love you too. I deal with a tyrant of one at home. An elderly senior dog. But does she also relate well to Donald Trump? She's immediate. He's not, but he's still a threat. And she's just a pain in the ass. But she's family. He isn't. And right now, he's got more and more control and fingers in cookie jars than he's got on his little stubby fingers. He doesn't like criticism of any sort. He wants everybody else to know that he's the greatest, he's the perfect, he's everything. His ego is massive, and he is worse than a whiner baby than my dog right now, who claims that she wants more attention from me than anything else. She whines worse than he does, but he doesn't care about anybody. Oh, I hear his talk left and right. I mean, I've seen it on the news reports, the press conferences he has. He tries to show that he's a kind, caring guy, and yet he'd throw out remarks to press people not to throw them out of there or deny people life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He's like every damn screwball I've seen coming out. That includes Charlie Kirk and Turnpoint, and those who run it. And every damn Trumplicant who follows Trump in the line of thinking. You know, I call them Trumplicants because you know what it reminded me of? If I'm taking out a copyright here from Paramount Studios, they're the 21st version, the equivalency of Borg thinking. Okay, I'm a Trekkie, okay? I talk about it in this kind of terminology here. And if you had seen Star Trek Next Generation, third and fourth seasons, actually first, and then the third and fourth, and then a little bit later on, and then the movies that we actually had in Star Trek Voyager series, and then next, let's see, we had NX-01 Enterprise. Yeah, they bring out the Borg. And we also had different shows talking about the Borg left and right. How they assimilate. How they don't care. It's basically you either follow my play or else you're dead. One way or another, you're dead to me. So who cares? You got to be part of me. Because I say so. That's how it is. That's how it is. I'm trying to put it as simply as better. It's either join the bully or else. That's it. Jimmy Kimmel has gotten that threatening letter. I know he's intelligent. Because liners he keeps throwing out to people. I trust that he's got liners. I hadn't seen a lot of his shows, and I wish I had. Because I know he would find reasons to poke and prod. And this is what comedians do. Comedians find things to make things funny for people, to liven up their tension by bringing up the ridiculous or the normal. Here comes Jen again.
Exile and chess grandmaster. He has seen authoritarianism with his own eyes, and this week he wrote this in his Substack newsletter, The Next Move. As demagogues go, Donald Trump is not especially original. A tragedy occurs, the leader starts pointing fingers and blames the other guy as a pretext for overreach. It's so formulaic that no TV show with this plot would ever have made it near this past weekend's Emmys. Kasparov warned that we should understand this for what it is, a threat to the American opposition's constitutionally protected free speech rights. But he also offered a sign of hope, that the U.S. may not suffer the same fate as Russia's slide into autocracy. He said, quote, Russia had no democratic immune system to fight the virus. America does. We all need a little dose of hope right now. And joining us now is Gary Kasparov. That piece is excellent. I encourage everybody to read it. We can share that too as well. But let me start by just asking, we brought up the comedy as an early warning sign with the example of a puppet show depicting Vladimir Putin, which is part of why we played it for the audience earlier to help them understand this storyline. That Putin forced them off the air early in his reign, of course, as I also mentioned. But how is that example, or the example of what you saw in Russia, instructive of what we're seeing now, and what's different? Because I think it's so important, as you mentioned in your piece, about how it's the virus. There's a different instinct or ability in the United States.
This show, and thanks very much for reminding me about this golden era in the history of my country. It was a very short period. It was very feeble democracy. But the show was on air, I think, for about 6 years, and they mocked Yeltsin and his authorities. And I think back in 1995, one of Yeltsin's cronies tried to shut them down, and he was fired. And the first thing Putin did, he put him off the air by using the same coercion, attacking the parent company and then taking it over. And that's very important to understand. That's the moment you hear public interest, it should ring the bell. That's how the authoritarians use these very general terms that nobody can understand to advance their agenda. So when I hear this being repeated, public interest, I know what it's heading for.
That's such an important. That is a phrase that was used by the FCC chairman. What's in the public interest yesterday, and it's again to your point. I think how it is defined, right? And they are defining it in their own terms. One of the other interesting points you make, and I was talking with Stacey Abrams a little bit about a similar point earlier, is that there's not some big moment that may happen. I mean, these crackdowns can have a slow burn. It can be. It's not always a dramatic movie moment where journalists are being pushed off cliffs. It can be slower burning. We're clearly in it now. What are the conditions for people who are tuning into this, already scared about it, that allow these crackdowns to be successful? Maybe what allowed it to be successful in Russia?
Look, it's a very important point. It's in Hollywood movies. You see the coup d'état, tanks on the streets, journalists being arrested. Normally, it's a slow burning process. It's like death by thousand cuts, one by one. Just changing one paragraph in the law and moving the comma here or full stop here. It's and very often it's under the disguise of legality and of course public interest. We have to protect public security and. It's just, at one point you discover that, just you are no longer, having the same freedom you used to have. Of course, America, unlike Russia back then in 2000, has 250 years of democratic tradition. But I think the big mistake people are making, and Stacey Abrams pointed out, the Constitution doesn't defend itself. Constitution offers a good foundation to fight back for our freedom. But unless we recognize that this is an existential, I emphasize, existential threat to American democracy, so nothing will happen. And it's not just simply mobilization to protest. I believe that the elections and midterm elections will not be just a normal midterm. It will be free, but most likely not fair. When you look at the latest actions of the administration, for instance, the performance of Kash Patel at the hearings, insulting sitting senators, tells you that he doesn't care about Constitution, about the Congress. He cares only about one person. They all Trump administration members, they address their boss. And I'm afraid, and actually I'm almost convinced that when the moment comes, they will not follow the Constitution but his orders. And we know what kind of orders he does because he told us many times, Donald Trump doesn't lose elections. Donald Trump doesn't accept bad numbers. So it's even if the majority of the country voting one way, Donald Trump will not accept it.
We only have about a minute left, but I've heard this a lot, and this is the thing that scares people about the elections not being fair. What is that? You've seen this before. What does that look like to you? What should people have their eyes open to?
Oh, look, if you have DOJ, FBI, eyes under your command, so you can do a lot of things. And obviously, we already saw that Donald Trump will not hesitate to bring troops, National Guard, into blue cities. So again, he has too many levels of power, and it's very important that now we mobilize people. And my suggestion is not just general protest. I don't think they go after Disney. They say they're too powerful and probably insulated against a campaign of boycott. The Congress. It's Article 1 of the Constitution. And it's Donald Trump power is based on 5 Republican votes there. So campaign. If you have millions of people who are upset now, start making calls. Just turn their lives into hell and make sure that they hear the voice of people.
Such an important point. You've seen this before. I really appreciate you joining us. It's really insightful, and I encourage everybody out there to read your piece too and follow you on Substack. Gary Kasparov, thank you so much. We have just taken a quick break, but Lawrence is standing by with lots of news, lots of information, and every bit of Epstein news that Donald Trump does not want you to hear because he never holds back. We'll be right back.
Part 2 coming up.
My generalized myasthenia.